And welcome back to the North Star Takes podcast with Bailey Pulicki and Jacob Liberta. You can find all our videos here on our channel, so feel free to hit that subscribe button, as well as give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram as well. Today we will be continuing our positional preview of fantasy football with the running backs. Last week we did quarterbacks. We're moving on to running backs this week. A lot of people have Christian McCaffrey at the top of their list. Understandably so. He's a beast when he's healthy. How do you see it though? Do you have him at the very top, and who's kind of in your elite tier for the fantasy football running backs?
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with all those people saying Christian McCaffrey, just because I think the offense around him is just less talented than a guy like Dalvin Cook.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot more talent, a lot less shares for Dalvin in an offense like the Vikings, where I think in Carolina, when you got a guy you're just trying to ease into the fold with Sam Darnold, I feel like you got to lean on McCaffrey a lot more than the Vikings do with Dalvin. So as big of a homer as I am and how much I'd love to say Dalvin here, I probably still got to lean McCaffrey just because I think they also just throw him the ball a lot more in the passing game. Although maybe Clint will work in Dalvin a little bit more in the pass game this year, but remains to be seen. So probably got to lean towards McCaffrey here at number one. But I think as far as, like you said, the elite tier, I'd have to go with McCaffrey number one, but then right after that, I'd say Dalvin's there. And then I'd also say Alvin is there, Kamara. Because same thing with McCaffrey. I think that offense is really decimated in New Orleans now all of a sudden because obviously Breeze is out of the picture. He's retired. They got Michael Thomas off, injured, and really, honestly, not being great for their locker room right now.
Apparently he might want to trade or something.
Yeah, so that's just a distraction. So, I mean, I think they're going to be leaning on Kamara a lot. So I'd say he's there. And then after that, I think it gets a little bit murkier. I'm not a big Saquon guy, but we'll get to that. But
okay.
How about you? Who do you have at the top of this board here for running backs?
Yeah, I'd agree with you with Christian McCaffrey. When it comes to just being an all-around running back, I would say Dalvin Cook is the best all-around running back in the NFL. But fantasy-wise, when it comes to just catching a bunch of passes, just getting the ball a ton, Christian McCaffrey is the guy unless he gets hurt. So, yeah, like you said, the Panthers just feed him the ball. I mean, when Teddy was there last year, they were just dumping it off to him.
Yeah, you got the volume is just there.
It's insane. So it's foolish to not take him number one overall if you have the number one overall pick. But then I agree with you. Right behind him is Dalvin Cook for sure. He's been fantastic the last 2 seasons. Alvin Kamara, the Saints could be a train wreck this year, and it could kind of be like a Christian McCaffrey situation where he's really the only one that's talented to get the ball. So
exactly.
I would bank on him having a good year. Derrick Henry also, who just he doesn't always start out great, but the second half of the season he just goes on a tear.
Exactly. The only thing that kills Henry a little bit is just pass catching. But
exactly,
because he's going to run for a ton of yards every time, especially like you said, second half of the season. But it's just they don't factor him in that much in the pass game. But,
guys get sick of tackling him, and he just keeps trucking through them. So then behind him, it's for me, it's a toss up between Zeke and Saquon. I think. They're both talented guys, but they both have injury issues. Zeke just hasn't been fantastic fantasy-wise the last couple seasons. Barkley's a very talented player, but he just can't seem to stay healthy, and it's not even for sure if he'll be ready for week 1 yet. So, what are your thoughts on Saquon, though? I'm interested to hear that.
Saquon, most overrated player on the board,
wow.
honestly. I think Barkley, if he plays, he's going to be good, but I also feel like the Giants are on the brink of like a train wreck because Joe Judge is not the move. Like, he's not the coach that's going to bring a ton of success to a team. So, I don't know. I'm really bearish on Barkley just because obviously it starts with his health. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. And then when you got, I don't know, I feel like that team is just a little bit too concerning. Obviously, with Daniel Jones being the quarterback, I feel like Barkley should get his fair share of looks in the backfield. But then it also comes down to their offensive line, too. Their offensive line was just awful last year. And you got to see if Andrew Thomas takes steps forward here in year 2 because obviously he was terrible last year.
Right.
Downright terrible. And he was the 4th overall pick. So you expect better. So kind of comes out of that offensive line, too. And, I'll just leave it at that I think there's just too many factors I don't like that surround Barkley and with him, like his own health, that I just kind of shy away from. I don't know. And as far as Zeke goes, I feel like he's a little bit overhyped too, but at least he's usually good for 1,000 yards every season. So you can count on him for that. But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I've had Saquon in fantasy football the last couple of years, and it's kind of come back to bite me. It's just, once he hurts you twice, you kind of want to move on from him. You don't want to touch him. So his rookie year, he was fantastic. He looked like the electric player he was in college, and he's been banged up, and we just haven't seen that the last couple of years. So I don't know, but moving on further down the board here, I mean, You got guys like Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb. I would personally put Chubb right behind that group with Barkley and Elliott. He's just been an absolute beast for the Browns.
Yes.
Eckler, when he's healthy, is just a fun player. He's kind of a McCaffrey type, just catching a bunch of passes all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And Jonathan Taylor was an intriguing rookie last year. So how do you feel about kind of this next tier of guys? And let's say you're picking like 7 or 8, and these top 5 or 6 running backs are off the board. Are you picking these guys over like the top wide receiver, or are you not quite there?
I don't know if I'm quite there yet. I'd have to heavily consider it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it depends on the format of your draft. Most people do snake drafts, but if I'm doing maybe a traditional draft, then I don't know, man. I got to get my running backs. And I think these guys provide a lot of upside. Like I think they have top 5 potential, but also I think there's a bit more risk there than the rest of them that we just got done talking about. Because like those guys, they're going to get the volume. With these guys, it might be a little bit murkier because there's guys like Chubb who share a backfield with like Kareem Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, obviously that brings his value down a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What are you thinking about that next tier, guys? Jonathan Taylor too. I should mention he had a great rookie season. They'll see if he can build off of that. But again, it feels more like a crowded backfield again because they still have Marlon Mack, I think, and then they got obviously Nyheim Hines.
Yeah, it's tough for me because I would usually want to go like running back no matter what in the first round.
Yep.
But it's so tough when there's like the top receiver, like a Travis Kelce sitting there. It's like, these guys are just going to go off, have great seasons. But if you pass on a running back in the first round and you come back around to the second round, your options are just dwindled down so much.
You find yourself very thin at that position. Then you're really banking on being lucky.
And it's an important position to have because you start 2 of them in most leagues anyways. So, I don't like messing around with that, and I love to get a running back in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's like an Austin Eckler who you can't necessarily rely on to be healthy, I would take more of a gamble maybe on like a Jonathan Taylor. Joe Mixon, I think, is due for a bounce back as well. He was kind of banged up and hurt last year. So
and that offense in general should just be a lot better this year.
Yeah. A couple of young guys that intrigue me. Antonio Gibson from Washington was great last year. Mm-hmm. Najee Harris, the rookie with Pittsburgh. Yeah. I think that could be a very interesting combination, him being there.
Well, 'cause I feel like he's got the backfield all to himself.
He does. He really does. I mean, James Conner's gone. They really don't have anybody else. Big Ben's getting old. His arm's getting weak.
Yep.
I think they're going to be doing a lot of running and dumping off to him.
Yes, and I know Mike Tomlin emphasized wanting to run the football more going into this season because they were terrible at it last year. So that's hence why they took a running back in the first round. So I think this has got very high potential, and I feel like he's a little bit underranked on most fantasy boards. But I think it might just because he's a rookie running back. So obviously there's a little pause because he's a rookie because you never know. But I don't know. He's pretty tasty.
Yeah. As we kind of move down the board here and look at some of these potential mid-round guys,
sure.
Is there a certain guy that you think could be not necessarily a deep sleeper, but a good sleeper for this season that many people aren't keeping an eye on right now?
I'd say a guy that could provide some real value later on. Probably not right away at the beginning of the season, but has tremendous upside just because, like Harris, he's a rookie. I lean more towards Michael Carter, maybe.
Okay.
In an unproven Jets backfield, I feel like there's a lot of potential there to use him, especially with maybe form a connection really with the rookie quarterback Zach Wilson. So I kind of like that idea. But I think all these rookie running backs, like at least the ones taken like early on in this past year's draft, I think they all have a pretty good situation they're walking into to possibly really thrive in.
Yeah, I'm not digging down quite as deep as you, but I'm going with Mike Davis with the Falcons.
Yeah.
When Christian McCaffrey got hurt last year, Mike Davis was really good fantasy-wise. I think he was in the top 5 the weeks he was playing for fantasy scoring. He really doesn't have to share the backfield with anybody there in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I like this guy. He's a short but like chunky running back. Like he's a beefy dude. So
yeah, and plus they got Arthur Smith there as the head coach now, the old offensive coordinator from the Titans, who they obviously really emphasize running the ball with Derrick Henry, and a lot of people think they might do the same in this offense. It'll be a little bit of a transition away from what they're used to doing with Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley. Now that Julio is out of the picture, I think they're going to be more focused on running the ball. So I like that idea of Mike Davis.
Yeah, and he's capable of catching the ball too, as we saw with Carolina last year. So
exactly.
Yeah, there's some intriguing names as you kind of look down this list. You got like Travis Etienne with Jacksonville, who I think at his full potential could be like an Alvin Kamara type player.
Absolutely. It just depends how they're going to use him.
Exactly.
That's what kind of scares me.
And they still have James Robinson, who I think some teams should trade for to be their starting running back, because he was great as a rookie last year.
Very solid.
Some other guys, I mean, James Conner ended up going to Arizona, but I think that's going to be a split backfield situation with Chase Edmonds there, who's kind of another intriguing guy. He's been pretty good. So I guess, is there anyone else that kind of stands out to you here before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I'd say, let's just keep the rookie show going here. I like Javonte Williams a lot in Denver.
Okay.
I know you got Melvin Gordon in the mix too, but I feel like Williams, if he looks good, especially early on, could get a lot more of the snaps. So I think he's got some upside there too. And I just love the idea of, especially running backs that you take high, you probably want to use as much as possible because you don't usually like to invest high draft capital these days in running backs. So when he was taken towards the top second round, then especially when they trade up for him, I feel like there's a lot of potential there for them to use him. So
I agree. Another guy I'm keeping an eye on, especially if Zeke gets banged up, is Tony Pollard.
Yeah,
he's been pretty solid, especially when he's had to come in for relief for Zeke. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. There's a lot of potential really good running backs here, but they just kind of need the opportunity to show it.
Exactly. You never know if they're actually going to get the snaps or not. So that just makes you, keeps you up at night during the fantasy football season.
Right
before your fantasy football draft.
Yeah. But always remember to snag that running back unless there's just a player you can't pass on in the first round. So
exactly. Yeah, running back's pretty safe fallback.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you want at least one really good running back. That's going to do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Be sure to like our videos and stay tuned for more content by smashing that subscribe button.
Yes.
Give us a follow on Instagram and Twitter, and leave your thoughts below about how you feel about the running backs for this fantasy football season. Is there anybody we're overhyping, or maybe we're sleeping on somebody as well? So give us your thoughts below. Thanks for watching.